Good afternoon, good evening students, I hope you're doing good. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're back with another lecture concerning literature. As you can see, it will be about the same book entitled Hard Times by Charles Dickens. I told you before that we are going, or during the third video, we are going to analyze the 8 chapters. So we already summarized 8 chapters, so now we are going to analyze them. But before I start, as usual, I invite you to like the Facebook page of this channel in order to be notified whenever I post something new, and also subscribe to my channel. That would encourage me to do more and also help you out during the period of exams. We shall start with talking about the writer himself, or the author of the book. Then we are going to analyze the chapters. So as you know, Charles Dickens was a British novelist, journalist as well, editor, illustrator, and a social commentator, who wrote many novels, by the way, such as Oliver Twist, A Tale of Two Cities, and Great Expectations. He was interested in the underclass of the Victorian era, and he also depicted society which helped to bring a social change. So this is a brief summary about Charles Dickens, but you can find some other of his works online if you want, or on internet. But for now we are going to move directly to the analysis of the 8 chapters. So Charles Dickens, like I said, was interested in the social conditions of the working class, and the story is set in England during the mid-1800s in a place called Coketown. Okay? It is one of his novels that talk about the social problems during the Victorian era. The story begins with the opposition of belief. This is very important. There was an opposition of belief between Mr. Gradgrind and Sissy Jupe, or Cecilia. As you all know, Mr. Gradgrind is a man of science, a man of reason, a man of rationality, while Sissy Jupe, or Cecilia, is all about feelings, emotions, fancy, imagination, and all. So these are two things which are opposed. So, like I said, while Mr. Gradgrind was interested only in facts and cold facts, Sissy Jupe was more into romantic and imaginative fancy. Okay? The idea of facts is shown to be the core of the problems of the poor. Not only the poor, but also, let's say more specifically, Mr. Gradgrind's family. We're going to see that in the upcoming videos when we are going to summarize book the second, book the third as well. So we are going to find that the problem, or the main problem of the story, is always related to facts and Mr. Gradgrind's philosophy. Anyways, Coketown was heavily industrious. Okay, so before I carry on with Coketown, when we talked about the cold facts and reasoning and all, you should know that it is a characteristic of realism as a movement, because people during the Victorian era were only, let's say, interested in science, reasoning, facts, rationality in general. So you are going to find this during the whole story. The second characteristic in the Victorian era, or realism, it's the fact that we had the Industrial Revolution, right? So since Industrial Revolution existed during that period, so it influenced the movement itself that we call realism. Therefore, Coketown was heavily industrious, and that kind of industry is always related to facts and rationality, like I said, which brought machines, factories, clouds of black smoke, and on the other hand you have fancy, which is a path that leads to compassion, care, and love. So during the whole story you are going to have the feeling that you are reading, you are looking to, let's say, a place that is heavily industrious, smoky, noisy, with machines, factories that make the noise, the disturbing noise, and people, let's say, they like They look all the same, and also they have a monotonous life. So we are going to see that later on during the analysis. So we have applied two characteristics for now on the story. The first one is the fact that it is only related to facts, and only facts, rationality and reasoning. This one is all about industrialization. So we should know that Gradgrind's philosophy was related to the Industrial Revolution. Okay, so when we talk about Gradgrind, why is it related to the Industrial Revolution? Because Industrial Revolution is related to reasoning, science. Okay, and also before we carry on, Gradgrind's friend, Mr. Bounderby, who said that he is a wealthy industrialist who owns banks and factories. Okay, so when we talk about the characters, you have Mr. Gradgrind. In the beginning, he appears as a cold father who doesn't care about the feelings of his kids, and also is the owner of that school, so he doesn't care about the feelings of the students or the pupils as well, because everything that he wants to teach them was only facts, and he didn't care about anything else. Gradgrind also will appear later on, of course, as a character who loves his children, but everything that he has done, it's because he thought that it was good for them. Anyways, we are going to see that later on. So when we say that the philosophy of Gradgrind was related to the Industrial Revolution, this one is related, or it is considered to be the cause of the mechanization of human nature. The mechanization of human nature is a theme. Okay, if you take this as a theme, for example, why is it considered as a theme? Because if you take an example from the story, when Tom and Louisa were spying on the people in the circus, you see, Louisa was a little bit curious. She was trying to explain to her father that she only wanted to look at the people and all, while Tom didn't care much, and he gave up to his father, whatever his father wanted to do with him. So here, Tom acted like a machine. So if you take the machines, the exact machines that these people of the Victorian era were using, and you take the monotonous life, or their monotonous life, it's like those machines affected these people, and these people became just like the machines. Therefore, Tom is a great example to use in terms of mechanization of human nature. Then we move to the monotonous life. Since they lived a monotonous life, working on the factories, like I said, they became like machines. When you become like a machine, you lose your feelings. So Tom here lost his feelings. Then we move to the names of the characters. So if you look at the names of the characters, they reveal things about their personality. Okay? For example, Mr. Gradgrind, his name tells a lot about his behavior towards his children and the pupils in general. Okay, if you take the word grind, which means somehow crushing something, here Mr. Gradgrind crushes the curiosity, imagination, the personality in general of the kids, his kids or the pupils. Even the names of the chapters might tell you how to interpret the story. Okay, for instance, the chapter "The One Thing Needful" or "The One Thing Necessary" will tell you that during this chapter, you are going to learn something that is the only thing which is necessary or needful. Anyways, if you take also the circus entertainers, and they are actually also the opposite of Mr. Gradgrind. They use their imagination to turn the sad reality into a happy and magical entertainment. Okay? If you take an example of Cecilia, who grew in this environment with the circus entertainers, because her father worked at the circus. So Cecilia was curious and she was all about love, compassion, care, and all. You are going to see that also during the upcoming videos. You will see that she was nurtured from the she was nurtured by these circus entertainers and everything they do in order to make something magical and as a happy thing to give to society. And also in the eighth chapter, Dickens draws attention to fiction. Okay, the narrator says that the workers usually go to the library and read novels that talk about people just like them. Which means if you live, for example, in or during the Victorian era, so during all day you are going to work in the factories, then when you get to break, for example, you are going to go to the library to read something, and that thing is going to have the same story as you. And this stimulates their imagination, especially about human nature. It was a kind of a way out of the mechanical factories they work at. And Charles Dickens reminds his readers about the dehumanizing effects of industrial revolution. He adds also, even realist novels teach both facts and fancy. You should not forget that Charles Dickens and many writers during that period tried to depict reality as it is using a literary technique that we call imagery in order to have a change. Because according to these writers, life during that industrialization or during the Industrial Revolution mechanized human beings, which means they became like machines that they used in factories. So this would be it for today's analysis. I hope I made things clear for you. If you have any kind of question, feel free to ask them in the comments below or message me on the Facebook page. I will answer as soon as I see your message. Otherwise, I tell you, see you in the next video. Peace.